Hello again, everyone. Got a special treat for you today. A colleague of mine, Tammy Gooler Loeb, is stopping by. Say hi. Tammy, great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. We're going to talk about some neat stuff today. So hang on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Tammy, what are you doing?
Well, I'm doing a lot of things right now, actually. I am in the process of finishing up my first book. My first book, which is called Work from the Inside Out, Breaking Through the Obstacles and Refining Your Career, a Fulfilling Career. That's still rolling off the tongue a little bit. So that'll be out in June. And the book is actually based on my podcast, also by the same name, Work from the Inside Out. It's all about all the twists and turns that people take in their careers. So, thinking about the different things that people do in their careers, we often start out in one place, we end up in another. It's never a straight line. And a lot of people end up getting a little stuck here and there. And so I wanted to write a book that would help people think about how they could break through those obstacles. And the podcast is the same thing. I interview a different person every week, and we talk about all the different stages they've gone through and how they've broken through different obstacles so that they can find more fulfilling and meaningful and satisfying work. And this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I spent probably the first 15, 20 years in my career, or in several careers, finding myself being a little unhappy here and there, and realizing that if we're going to spend this much time at work, I think we ought to be happy. So by the time I was about 39, 40, I found coaching. I became a career coach, and I've spent the rest of my life, over 20 years now so far, helping other people find their happiness, finding their meaning in the world of work. So I work with people in all kinds of industries and careers, and it's been amazing. And so the first book will come out in June, and I'll be telling lots of stories of people in all kinds of walks of life. Some people who started out with nothing and ended up running companies, other people who had devastating accidents and, saw their life flash before their eyes and, made a huge pivot as a result of that. But I think a lot of people do reach a point at some point where they say, hey, is this all there is? And they decide, it's time to find something more meaningful. So that's a big part of what I'm about and where I'm headed. I also even have a second book outlined. It's been an interesting process writing a book. The creative process is a very interesting thing I discovered during this pandemic. As I've been writing, new ideas keep bubbling up. And so, you never get too old to discover new parts of yourself. And that's been a lot of fun as well. I've really, really enjoyed that part of the process.
Excellent. I've written four myself,
Aha.
and it's addictive. You know,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. Lifelong for me has been, if I'm not in the mood, I couldn't write an evaluation for somebody that I was kicking out of a job. But when I was in the groove, I could do 20 of them. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of neat. And your
Yeah.
podcasts are really interesting. Maybe you can speak a little bit more about your podcast that you put out every week.
Sure. So each week I interview a person who's had usually a career that's been at least 10 or 15 years. And I ask them to start at the beginning. Some people tell me about their childhoods, or they tell me about what their grandparents did, what their parents did. I've interviewed people who are very well known and other people who no one would know. For example, I interviewed Dory Clark, who a lot of people know as a very well-known strategy consultant and coach. And she talked about how she, as a young child, she wished that she was a spy, or because she loved 007. A good friend of ours, Todd Churches, talked about how when he was a young child, he wanted to be Batman. And people said, "You can't be Batman." He said, "No, okay, then I'll be Superman." So we have a lot of fun with it. But I also have interviewed people, for example, another colleague of mine I interviewed who started his career as a Baptist minister, and then he decided to join the FBI and became a hostage negotiator and working in international espionage. So it's been really interesting to talk to people in all walks of life some of who made very dramatic shifts in their careers, and other
Yep.
people who've made very incremental changes. And I love listening to people's stories, and I love telling their stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. You heard it here. Weekly podcast by Tammy Gooler Loeb. Marvelous to have you by. Thank you so much for doing this. Consortium, the business model for the 21st century.